Welcome to our February podcast of Oconee Captains. I am Doug Nelms. That is Jason Nelms. Yes, he is related to me. That is Kevin Alexander. No, he is not related to me. And we are your guests and hosts today for the 2019 edition of our Oconee Captains podcast. Thank you to Sugar Creek. As always, you're seeing all the stuff that they have here. It is an amazing place to shop. They have all our equipment. Rods, tackle, live bait, line, everything that you're going to see here today, they have it. If they don't have it, they can get it. William and Mike do a really good job. Give them a call. They're conveniently located right there on Lake Oconee, and we're all crazy about them. It's February, the first part of February. The crappie fishermen they're like the hibernating bears. They have awoken from sleep. I was down at the lower part of the lake Saturday. I saw 18 boats. I don't know if I told you all this. I saw 18 boats at the Rock Islands down there, and every one of them were crappie fishing. They're all pushing too. Well, there's a few that were pulling, but most of them were pushing, and it was loaded up with crappie. So. We're going to talk first about, there's two methods that we use here on Oconee. Pulling, which is, of course, casting your lines out behind the boat, running them a mile an hour or less. Kevin does a lot of that. He really enjoys it. Jody does too. Jody's in Talquin, or headed to somewhere. He was going to Crescent. I think he's in Talquin now. But Jody's really big on pulling. Jason and I really like to pull, or push. And we're going to tell you all about it and how it all works. So, Kevin, first of all, why don't you tell us how far out, let's start off with saying how many rods you fish.
All right, so I fish 8 rods total. I use 4 8-foot B&M Pro Staff trolling rods out the back, and then I use a 10 and a 14 on each side. And some people use 10, 12 rods, but 8 seems to work best with customers for me.
Yeah. So. And did you say what pound test you're using?
6-pound Mr. Crappie, and I use just the Bass Pro Shop Mega Cast spinning reels, 30 size. I like those for line capacity because I get hung, you break a line, next thing you know, you got to respool after 2 trips. So I use a bigger reel with a lot of capacity.
All right, so you're using, a lot of us fish double 16ths here when we pull, double 1/16 or a 3/32,
1/16,
1/16, or a 3/32, 1/32, and everything. It seems like the general consensus for most people is they use like double 16ths. So on your boat, Kevin, if you're pulling double 16ths, how deep you think you're fishing running a mile an hour?
I would say anywhere between 10 and 11, 12 feet.
Yeah.
My longer rods, you're going to get more leverage.
Yeah, depends on how far you throw them.
You're going to cast farther with those than the shorter ones. So it just depends. Your setup, your rod tip angle, line weight, speed, everything like that comes into play.
And you catch a lot of fish when we do this compared to whenever you and I go out and we start pushing. We don't catch as many fish, I don't think. The numbers aren't as big. And so you kind of got to decide, which one you're going to do. Are you going to catch a lot of fish, or you maybe not catch as many, but you catch a lot more big ones? Now, I know some of you are going to kick your heels up right now and you're going to go, oh, we catch big fish. Same size fish as we do when we pull and we push. And you know what? It's okay to say that. But a little story, when Jody, I push, he pulls. He was catching a lot of fish in January. This was a couple years ago. And We're up at I heard that the fish had pushed into Blue Springs, and so I got all my rods set up. We were out there just kind of doing a trial run. First rod goes down, Jody catches it, he holds it up. Now he's going to tell you he didn't do this, but he absolutely did this. He holds the fish up, he goes, boy, that's a good fish, look at that right there. I said, yeah, it's nice. Man, why do you think that thing away? I said, I don't know, probably £1.25. He goes, yeah, boy, that's a good fish. Where's your box? And I'm like, throw him back. He's like, what? I said, throw him back, because we can't keep bigger fish in that. Another rod goes down, he grabs it. We throw 2 fish back that he would have normally kept. But when we finally caught that £1.75, I said, yeah, you ain't put him in the box now. So why is it that we catch bigger fish?
I think it's simply because of the silhouette of the bait is larger. The jiffy jigs with the marabou tail have a tendency to, you know, if it's a big bushy tail, it'll swell up in the water. You put it, you know, 3 or 4 inch minnow behind it, and then you know, it's just a bigger presentation.
Yeah. I'm going to show you a setup really quick as how, and I don't, and Jason's going to show you his. I don't really suggest that you do it this way. This is kind of falling off, and I really can't see them. I use a 1/2 ounce finesse weight. I attach it to, we always use jiffy jigs, but those are bobber stoppers right there. And just imagine, it's going to take me too long to try to thread this weight back in, but imagine this setting there like that, and setting on top of the line. The reason being is because a lot of times when we're fishing this might get hung, you break it off. All I have to do is take the bobber stoppers and slide them back up. That gives me a more leader, and the weight is going to sit right there on top. A lot of you have asked about these things here that I use, and this is, I really didn't want, I didn't take the one that I actually use off my rod. These are B&M crappie reels. The reason I use these is because when you have customers on there that it's the first time they've ever pushed before, the fish goes down, their natural tendency is just to start reeling. And these are hard to reel. If I have, a lot of you guys use spinning rods, bait casters on top, those kind of things. And so, you know, somebody's never done it before, rod goes down, fish is on it, they grab a spinning rod and they start reeling. What does it do? Pushes the fish 16 feet away from your boat, can't even get a net on it. You're up there on one leg doing a balancing act, trying to get a net under it. I tell the guys, you know, and if you've ever fished beside me, you may have heard me yell this or loudly express it, but I tell them, strip the line out. It's like fishing a glorified cane pole. We strip line out, we bring the rod back, and we move the fish in. You guys that know how to push, you do that all the time. But that is my setup. Bobber stoppers on the bottom. Jason's going to show you something a little bit different. Bobber stoppers on the bottom, 1/2 ounce finesse weight on top. And if this ever breaks off, you slide those bobber stoppers back. Gives you, I run about 18 inches of leader, and you just keep working up the rod. Now, that's yellow crappie max. That's really just a back, and if you could see it good enough, there's probably 60, 70 yards of fluorocarbon, 6-pound fluorocarbon on there. So 6 pounds is what I use. Show them what the thing that you use there is complete. It's similar, but not really.
Yeah, it's similar. So, you know, obviously you still use the bobber stops. I use one on top as well as 2 on the bottom.
And that's a 3/4 ounce weight.
That's 3/4 ounce weight, finesse weight. Couple reasons I like this. If I had a microphone close enough, you would hear that these are glass beads and not plastic. 25 of them are about $5. But they rattle really loud. So when a fish hits it, or a wave comes by and bounces your rods, it actually has an attracting sound. You can hear it when the weights are shallow enough in the water. You know, you're fishing real shallow. Jiffy jigs, obviously, I use 8-pound fluorocarbon because 8-pound is just strong enough to straighten the hooks when these things get on timber. It will actually straighten them. The other thing is I don't like to use a net because we so often lose so many fish dealing with a net. So I like to olay the fish in the boat. The last reason I like using this is throughout different parts of the day, when we move into shallower water, when we're pushing, you don't have to worry about leader length. Sometimes I fish so shallow that the weight is actually touching the tip of the rod, and this is the only thing in the water. And so if I'm wanting to fish 8 foot deep or whatever, I mean 8 inches deep, you know, that's not a problem. if I have this long leader tied on, it can present a problem. Now I have to retie. So that's really, it's a lazy man's method, but you only end up having to tie one knot. So.
Yeah. So I mean, just quickly about them glass beads. We were in Bass Pro Shop the other day, and we were kind of buying all of our gear, and I had a bag of plastic beads. And he says, "Oh no, you need to use these." He kind of let one of his little secrets out, and I'm like, "What?" He goes, "Listen to the difference." He grabbed the sack that had the plastic beads, and shook them, and they were like. And he grabbed the glass beads and it sounded like a shad wrap or something. I'm like, oh God, give me these. These are the ones we're going to use. I fish 16 footers out the front of my boat. I fish out of a 2360 Ranger, so it's almost 24 foot long. I think the boat puts off a pretty big signature. So I want those rods to be out there, and I want them to see this before they see the boat. But you know what? Like on my small boat, I got a small G3 that I just personally fish out of. I fish 12s. What do you think the minimum rod length would be on a small boat?
Out of my boat, I mean, it's a 14.
You fish 12, 16?
Out of my boat, it would be a 14. It all really depends on how far your rack is in the boat, too. Mm-hmm. So some people fishing off a more, I guess, sharper bow, their rack or their T-bar might be, 4 foot in the boat with them, whereas mine's mounted right above the trolling motor. If I was further back, I'd probably use 16s. Yeah. I'd like to get the rods at least 12 foot out away from the boat, so 2 foot worth of handle out over the water, gives you plenty of cover. So.
Yeah. In this new boat that I got, and this will be the first year done, I can fish 3 guys up front, but it's because the rack is back. And I got, it's really wide. 3 guys can sit there. And I've always fished 2, and then the third person back there in the cheap seats. And what happens to the person in the back of the boat?
You don't catch any.
You don't catch any fish. I had a group from Kentucky come down one time. And I was telling them, you got to push. And they said, we catch fish out the back of our boat all the time. I said, you can go ahead and try it. And they fish here for 4 days. They fished 2 days with me and 2 days on their own. They caught 1 fish out the back of the boat. Pushing, not pulling. But pushing.
Yeah, the only way I've ever found that you can, if I have a lot of customers and we're pushing, say we're in a big flat, like what everybody knows is Wayne's Point. If I have a boat, I have to have 4 people. We all want to go. All right, great. 2 people sit up front. I'll put 2 people in the back. I'll throw out bobbers, about 6, however deep that I'm pushing. Throw them out, slip bobbers. Use the same thing as a bobber stop. Just take the weight off, and then put a little cork on there and troll these jiffy jigs. You'll occasionally get a couple bites, but it's nothing like the front.
Yeah, and don't you hate really having to do that too?
Yeah,
because
I do.
A lot of times when you spin around, you get right back in your lines because I forget about it. Mm-hmm. So if you have any questions about that, I know we're kind of moving through this quickly, but we don't really want to make this a real long podcast like the last one. If you have any questions about finesse weights, bobber stoppers, please email us, reply on the Kevin's things right here. Show them one more time, Kevin.
So when I'm pulling, these 4 colors are my go-to colors. You see them?
Yep.
That's blue shiner, popsicle, fire and ice. And this is what I use when the water is stained. It's ruby motor oil. And these are made by Tex Jigs. They sell them at Sugar Creek and Fishtail Marina.
And then colors for pushing. My dad and I, and pretty much everybody on the lake uses a lot of the same colors. But they go to, you got your black, blue glitter, blacktail. I like this Weiss Lake Killer. It's blue with some glitter.
Hold it up a little bit higher. Right? There you go.
Perfect. Blue with some glitter. Then we have red Sexy Bug. That's a chartreuse, red chartreuse.
Yeah, we'll tell you the story about that next month.
And then Doug Bug, which is the chartreuse, blue chartreuse. And last, it's just pink, blue chartreuse. These are my go-to colors for pushing.
Yeah. And you can get all of these Jiffy Jigs. This is blue, glitter blue. This is actually JC used to just make black, blue, and black, but it had no glitter in it. And I asked them to put glitter, and they'll do whatever you want them to do. Miss Brantley, Jimmy Brantley, the son who runs the place now, excellent people. These are excellent jigs for pushing. I don't use, and there are other good ones. I know Tony Willis has got sugar bugs, and I've heard a lot of good things about them. A lot of good ones, but these are our kind of our go-to guys. They do a wonderful job and they'll make just about any color you want, and they're pretty affordable too.
They're good people.
Yeah, they're good folks. You're supporting a good local company, and we should tell everybody about some of the favorite places that we like to fish during the time. And I know that you're going to be fishing Reynolds Timber. Where are all the places you'll be pulling this?
I fish Reynolds Timber in the summertime, or any timber in the lake for that matter.
Mm-hmm.
The fish will get in a big school. You'll go over a tree and see 1,000 crappie sitting in it, and I can tell my customers, hey, get ready. We're about to get 3 or 4 rods go off. But now the fish are moving into your creek arms.
Mm-hmm.
They're staging up. They're getting ready to do their thing. And then towards the end of the month into March, I'll be pulling in 4 feet of water on a flat, 1 30-second jigs, and,
Where at?
fishing.
Just different places. I'm telling you, crappie fishermen, God almighty, we're the weirdest bunch in the world. And it's because we network better than anybody else. And I know that everybody's sitting there going, tell us where, and I get that.
Brush piles and treetops.
Yeah, we don't even want to talk about brush piles and treetops. That's kind of an inside joke. Deep channels, river channels, Lick Creek, between the bridges there at Lick Creek, out there at the mouth of where the old Brantley's Marine is, waterfront is now. I'll tell you a funny story. That a long time ago, and let's just talk about pushing because I'm real familiar with this. There's a lot of great places that we like to go and we push, but there's this place, and everybody knows about it, so it's no secret now anymore. But there's a place over there at Lick Creek that you can go under the bridge, under this tunnel. And some of you guys know where I'm talking about. And it takes you out to a little flat. It's kind of behind the storage areas over there at Lick. And so we have these goofy names for all these places on the lake. And so one day, when I got the tower on the boat, of course, you can't go through there. It's got to be a real small boat. And Kevin, before he moved down here, he used to rent a house over there.
Duplex.
Yeah, at Twin Lakes, right in there. So we were talking about, where'd you catch him fish? He said, where I call man? I said, no, what? He said, you go through that bridge, a tunnel of love. And so we thought that'd be a good name for it, so we started calling it the Tunnel of Love. And then Kevin made a mistake one day of saying, the back hole. So it's like either the love hole or that's probably as far as we need to take it. But really catch some big fish back there pushing. I mean, it's funny that those fish would run through that tiny little love hole. Yeah, it's all kind of, yeah. It's funny they would run through that tiny place to go back there and spawn, but they do. And this will happen probably more in March than it will now. But places that we love to fish is, of course, up the Appalachia, a place called Wayne's Point. Love to fish on the Oconee side. Right across there from Redlands, there's a deep channel there. There's a big osprey nest up in the tree. I caught a lot of fish there last year. Sugar Creek, yeah, the actual Sugar Creek place right out in front of Sugar Creek Marina is a place that we call Purgatory. And again, we come up with these silly names because it's kind of maybe a code between all the guides. But the reason we call it Purgatory is we rode over the bridge one day. One of my friends. And he said, there's 150 boats out there crappie fishing there. Like we'd never seen people crappie fish right out there in that wide open place, right at the gas docks at Sugar Creek. I said, what are you talking about? He goes, I'm talking about, I sat on the bridge and I counted, I think it was like 57 boats or something. I said, in the middle of, that's like Purgatory. There is nothing there. The name stuck. So, but actually, up in North Sugar Creek, just a lot of really good places to fish when it comes to pushing. What's interesting about that is something we really hadn't covered is when Jason was talking about how, you know, he will start off the day in deep water, and then before the day is over, he is, you know, you may be fishing in 2 or 3 feet, and a lot of people do not believe this, and I know you can validate this. A crappie swim a lot further, I think, than what most people give them credit for. And the place at the Appalachian, we will start off in a river channel in 10, 12, 14, 20 foot of water, fishing 8, 9, 10 feet down in the morning. Before that day is over, we will have moved off those flats. When you look on your graph and you don't see fish anymore, we will have moved off those flats, and we may be fishing our lines, am I right, that deep.
Yeah.
And I call it window shopping, and it's when those big female crappie come out of the channel. They run up in, especially on a good sunny day when there's a lot of when that sun hits that muddy water and it warms it up. They'll run up in there, and I think they're just looking. I don't think they're necessarily spawning. I think they're just maybe going up there thinking about where to build a nest. The rule of thumb here is on Oconee that you can catch these crappie in the mud. They don't mind it so much. I mean, there are days where I have to pull the rods up and wipe the mud off the leader, and we're just steady catching them. But what they don't like is fresh water and water current. And what I mean by that is the old guys used to tell me that if an inch of rain was to fall, it would take 3 days for the crappie to start biting again. Now, 3 days of mud is down, but just for some reason they don't like a lot of current. The lake has to settle down. I think the only option to that theory is on a full moon.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they'll bite on a full moon before and after, regardless. Do you agree?
Oh, yeah. The main thing when you're, you know, everybody asks, where are you fishing? And I am confident that we have covered 20% of this lake. I mean, anywhere where fresh, fertile water's coming in is where crappie are going to spawn. I don't care if it's on the south end of the lake. I don't care if it's up the Richland Arm or it's out, I mean, all the way back. If there's a creek coming in and there's a shallow flat somewhere, and this lake is pretty shallow in a lot of places, you're going to find spawning crappie. One trick that they say you can use, I don't know. I've tried it. It works somewhat. Take a white coffee cup, stick it down in the water. When it disappears, that's the depth in which they're going to lay their eggs. Whether that holds any validity here or not, I don't know. They usually lay eggs in 18 inches to 2 foot of water up the Appalachia, and then they probably lay, you know, I know in Florida they'll lay their eggs as deep as 10 foot deep, where it's crystal clear. So, you know, it might be 4 foot up the Richland Arm. It might be, you know, 18 inches up the Oconee.
The back love hole's, you know, 4, 5, 6 feet deep. So,
yeah,
you know, the water's clear too.
Yeah.
And I think it's also fair to say that the crappie on this lake, I mean, I know we're not talking about stripers, and, you know, I love striper fishing. Right now, stripers are pretty easy. You put a live bait on a flat line behind your boat and pull it, and they'll eat it. Crappie are like, I don't know, they're like really finicky. It's degrees. It's ints, if you will, of how, you know, this is so technical. And it's kind of sad because, I mean, when you pull, you can fish kids, right? It's pretty easy. But when you push, that ain't no kids game.
No, it's for serious crappie fishermen. I mean, it's a lot more technical. You know, you're pushing into deadfall tree limbs, pushing out around docks, any bit of structure you see when you move into the shallow water. Heck, you got to trim your motor up. It's getting stuck or hits a stump. The boat jostles sideways. I mean, we're in some pretty shallow stuff where we shouldn't be, really. We shouldn't be in John boats, but these big center consoles get thrown around. But that's where the fish are. You know, that's just where they are. That's where you want to find them.
You remember that time we were up here on the Appalachian and fish were right on the edge of that timber there, and we were like bouncing around, and, you know, we'd always get hung, but we were like, the wind was blowing from the east, and it was like, you would take your boat, the wind's coming this way and the timber's right here, and you'd take your boat and you'd put it right up on that timber and the rods would just go down. But that's grown man fishing there.
Yeah,
and you put a kid on the boat. Well, this is it. Most grown men struggle handling them 16-foot rods.
No doubt. That's why I went, like I said, no net. Just somehow fly that fish in the boat because
you have to be coordinated.
Yeah, there's a lot going on, and them cold mornings, dipping your hand in that minnow tank, and then putting a minnow on the hook. It's just it can be awful, and kids, it's really not for them.
So, let me ask you a question. What is y'all probably know this. I'm gonna start off with Kevin. What's the biggest crappie that you've caught on this lake? Weight wise.
2 pounds 9 ounces.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty good fish. That would have won the tournament.
I was going to get it mounted, but something had bit its tail off, and I didn't. So I ate it.
2.9.
I bet it was delicious.
It was.
Yeah. What's the biggest one you've caught?
3.2.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Where'd you catch it at?
Appalachia.
Yeah, that's where it been.
And my river hawk.
Yeah, Billy Brack. He was Mr. Crappy, man. Some of you guys know him. He's kind of retired, but he and I have been buddies for a long time, and he would always tell me, yeah, there's some good fish over there at Richland. He said, but there ain't nothing beat them Appalachian fish. I'm like, yeah, I know. But, there's a lot of guys that come up here, but most guys are scared to death because it can be rougher than a night in jail coming up through here, man. I mean, you got to dodge and everything else. So you were in your river hawk, and he caught up Appalachia. That was that little tiny John boat.
Little tiny 14-foot boat, and caught him in the power line.
Yeah.
You know where I caught mine? Yes.
Back love hole.
The tunnel of love. Yeah. The two biggest I caught them at the same time, and I'm looking at the clock. I probably got just a minute to tell this story. I caught I was pushing. I was out there with all them old guys. George Cox. I had bought a tube jig from Walmart that had a yellow head. Well, it just had a red glitter body and a yellow tail. I put a yellow head on it, and I showed it to George, and he said, "Damn, fish on this lake ain't gonna bite this. That's the end of it. That's a few miles. You just wasted your money." And they called me one day and they said, "Hey, the fish are up at Lick Creek," and we were up there where the gas pumps are. So I run up there, and all the old guys were there. Mike and Santa Claus and Mr. Jennings and George, and everybody's up there, all the old heads that used to crappie fish here during this time. I pushed my rods up in there, and I'm like, "What's going on?" They said, "They quit." And about that time, this rod goes down, and I set the hook, and this one goes down. I'm on the boat all by myself. I set the hook, and I leave it. And when I get him up to the top, I'm like, "My God, this is the biggest fish I've ever seen." Took the net and netted him, slung him over in the boat, shook him out of the net, dropped the rod, went back over and netted this one. I'm like, "That's a monster." And this is exactly how it happened. When I weighed them, this one on this side weighed 3 pounds on a digital scale on the money. This one weighed 3 pounds and 2 ounces. It's like I went into a herd of giants. Mm-hmm. And so I'm holding them up, and all the guys are going, "Oh, God, them are some big fish." And I'm like, "Yeah." And George says, "What did you catch him on?" I said, "That." And I looked, and it was that red and chartreuse bug that I had told him. And I said, "That red bug that I told you about, that red jig." He goes, "What are you talking about?" I said, the other day when I was at your house and I showed you, and you said, you wasted your money. Yeah. "Doug, you were thinking about somebody else. That was not me." And he's getting closer and closer to me in the boat. I said, I bought them at Walmart. They were 97 cents a pack. Yeah. He goes, he's shaking his head. He goes, "I don't know what you're talking about. You're thinking about somebody else." I said, "No, that red bug, see." And I took the rod and I flipped it out to him, which was what he was wanting me to do the whole time. He grabs it and he bites it off. And he holds it up and he goes, and of course when he did that, everybody out there's laughing. I'm the young guy there. They done took me. And he's holding it up like this and he goes, "That is a red sexy bug right there. I'm gonna take," and that's how it got its name. Wow. So the guys at Jiffy Jigs, I called them and asked them if they would make a Jiffy Jig like that. So that's where the name of that come from. I will tell you one more thing, and then we're going to talk about the tournament. Last year, a guy called me to book a trip, and he said, I don't know if y'all even know this or not. He said, yeah, I caught a big fish, but I'd like to go out with you. I said, how big a fish did you catch? He said, I caught a crappie 4 pounds. I said, on Lake Oconee? He goes, yeah, it was 4 pounds. It was 4 pounds and 10 ounces or something. I said, man, that's the late record. You should, what'd you do? Well, I ate it, you know. Oh, no, I'll take it back. He said, I'm having it mounted. And I'm like, dude, that was like, what is the late record? 310, something
3
like
pounds,
that?
12 ounces.
312, yeah. I said, that was crazy. You could have held the late record. I said, send me a picture of it. And when he sent me a picture, because I'm thinking now, okay, he's got a scale problem because, you know, he sent me a picture of it. I don't think it was 4 pounds and 12 ounces, but it was the doggone biggest crappie I'd ever seen. And you could tell by how he was holding it up in his hands.
Swords, right?
It was at Swords. That's exactly right. How he was holding it up in his hand. That thing was a monster. Yeah. And I bet you it was probably knocking 4 pounds. It had a mouth on it like that. I mean, it's the biggest crappie I've ever seen. So the DNR says there's a lot of good crappie this year on their when they do their test and they run their nets just for a day. They said there's a lot of crappie, and so we're excited about it. Which brings us to our 2019 Big Fish Heads Derby. This is a charity tournament. You can see the advertising here on the back. If you guys have been following us on our website or Facebook page, you've heard a lot about it. This is our 5th year that we've done this. It's really exciting. And I want to take just a minute and explain it because I kind of sometimes fall into the category of just thinking everybody knows how this works. This tournament is open for everybody. It lasts 10 weeks. It is a lot of fun, and it's set up on the basis as they do derbies like you do in Florida in saltwater fishing. It is for basically the one largest striper, the one largest crappie. Now, when I say that, in the overall division, at the end of the tournament, first place, second place, and third place are awarded in the striper division for the 3 largest stripers. Same thing in the crappie division, first, second, third place. But the really cool thing is that we have a weekly division that starts Monday morning and ends Sunday night. There are a lot of really good prizes, and your fish, like we clear the board, not in the overall, but in the weekly division, the board's cleared every Sunday evening. We start all over again. So let's just say if we have some really bad weather and you go out and crappie fish and you catch a half-pound crappie, if nobody else weighs or posts one, you're the winner. And some of the, we're talking about Engel coolers, Yeti coolers, Humminbird fish finders. Even one week we have Van Stahl. Most folks don't even know what a Van Stahl is. I encourage you to Google it right now. Van Stahl reels. They're just the weekly winners. And so Jason, Kevin, Jody, Blake, they're going to help us with our mobile weigh-ins this year, and I'm going to explain that in just a second. But the main place to weigh them in is Sugar Creek Marina. This is how it works. You pay your entry fee, which is $125. I will go ahead and give you a heads up. It will probably go up a little bit next year. But $125, that puts you, you can fish in both divisions. If you catch a fish that you think is going to be the heaviest weight, and you'll be able to tell that by the website. We keep the website active. All you do is call us. And we will tell you, go to Sugar Creek and weigh it, or one of us will actually come out and meet you at the ramp and do it. It is a lot of fun because we meet a lot of people, a lot of good fishermen, and everyone can participate in it. The $125, I'm going to try to explain this, and if I don't say this right, help me. If you pay $125, it covers you and your boat. So if you're on your boat fishing and you've paid the registration fee and it's in your name, if one of your friends or customers catches a fish, you can claim it on your boat. And we try to make this as easy and as much fun and as simple as we can for everyone. So that with the mobile weigh-ins, with the weekly entry fees, we're looking for one fish that during the weekly, the 10 weekly periods, we're looking for one fish that's going to be the heaviest fish of that week. If you win it, you go on the website, and that week is locked in. Nobody else. One striper, one crappie. There'll be 10 weekly. Last year we only did 4 segments. There'll be 10 segments this year. The website is updated nightly. We're going to add a podcast this year on on Sunday night, or yeah, I guess Sunday night after the week is closed out, I'll get in here. We'll make a podcast. We'll announce the winners. It's easy to find out who they are. You just follow them on the website. If you're interested in doing it, we encourage you to go to BigFishHeads.com, www.bigfishheads.com. You can sign up there and be a part of this. We're going to send you a really nice shirt, one of these cool shirts, as part of our automatic prizes. Some really cool decals you can put on your truck. This year, and we do this as a charity tournament. This year, our benefactor is Chips Nation, and you can read all about them at chipsnation.org. It's a young man that, if I'm not mistaken, I believe he was born with brain cancer, and he beat it, and he has created a foundation to help other families and children that are going through the same thing. So we'd love for you to sign up. Now, here's a misnomer about this. Everyone thinks that just the guides win it. And I want to just tell you, the guy that won first place crappie fishing last year was an attorney in Atlanta. All right. Now, Kevin did win the striper thing last year, but
4-year-old caught the fish.
The 4-year-old caught. He got lucky. He absolutely got lucky. John Ritter was in charge of the whole thing, the whole chimichanga. He was going to win the first place in the overall. And Kevin got out there with a bass rod and didn't even know what he was doing and put him in on it. And Crappy Time caught the winning striper.
That's right.
And it's really upsetting to most of us. I want you to know that, because your name goes on a perpetual trophy. This year we're going to be giving out championship rings. So Kevin's going to look like Tom Brady if he wins it, because he's actually won 2, but I don't know. Like he's got a horseshoe around his neck.
Won the crappie a few years ago.
Yeah, won crappie a few years ago, but that's when the tournament was really small. He was only fishing against one other person, and that person was fishing on the bank.
Come on now, don't lie.
Okay, that was a lie. That's not true. All right, so go to the website. Here's the one other thing you need to know about the tournament. April 15th is the last day you can sign up for it. You cannot, after the tournament starts, the door is closed. And in May, we're going to have our big champions dinner. We have it over at Jody's house. Last year, it was such a booming success. We passed out prizes, cash prizes, and our regular prizes. We presented the trophy. It was a really cool thing. And so hope you join up for it. Hope you sign up. Get in it. It's a lot of fun. We have a ball. Anything that we missed today? Crappie fishing or the tournament? Do we get it all covered?
We got it all.
All right. Well, thanks again. This is our February podcast. Tune in again. Go to the review page. Tell us what you like about it. Tell us if there's something else we can do to make it better. Tell us how horrible we are. Either way, we appreciate the all the inputs. So on the behalf of Captain Jason and Captain Kevin, tight lines. We'll see you out there. Have a great day.